The road now rose abruptly till we finally reached our place of transfer between the trolley station and the Mina House Hotel. Abdul Reese, who capably purchased our pyramid tickets, seemed to have had an understanding with the crowding, yelling, and offensive Bedouins who inhabited the squalid mud village some distance away and pestiferously assailed every traveler, for he kept them very decently at bay, and secured an excellent pair of camels for us, himself mounting a donkey and assigning the leadership of our animals to a group of men and boys more expensive than usual. The area to be traversed was so small that camels were hardly needed, but we did not regret adding to our experience this troublesome form of desert navigation. The pyramids stand on a high rock plateau. This group forming next to the northernmost of the series of regal and aristocratic cemeteries built in the neighborhood of the extinct capital Memphis, which lay on the same side of the Nile. Somewhat south of Giza, and which flourished between 3400 and 2000 BC. The greatest pyramid, which lies nearest the modern road, was built by King Cheops, or Khufu, about 2800 BC. And stands more than 450 feet in perpendicular height, and a line southwest from this are successively the second pyramid, built a generation later by King Khephren, and though slightly smaller, the looking even larger because set on the higher ground, and the radically smaller third pyramid of King Mycerinus, built about 2700 BC. Near the edge of the plateau and due east of the second pyramid, and with a face probably about altered to form a colossal portrait of the Khephren, its royal restorer, stands the monstrous Sphinx, mute, sardonic, and wise beyond mankind and memory. Minor pyramids and traces of ruined minor pyramids are found in several places, and the whole plateau is pitted with the tombs of dignitaries of less than a royal rank. These ladders were originally marked by mastabas, or stone bench-like structures about the deep burial shafts, as found in other Memphian cemeteries, and exemplified by Perneb's tomb in the Metropolitan Museum of New York. At Giza, however, all such visible things have been swept away by time and pillage, and only the rock-hewn shafts, either sand-filled or cleared out by the archaeologists, remain to attest their former existence. Connected with each tomb was a chapel in which priests and relatives offered food and prayer to the hovering Ka, or vital principle of the deceased. The small tombs have their chapel contained in their stone mastabas, or superstructures, but the mortuary chapels of the pyramids where regal pharaohs lie were separate temples, each to the east of its corresponding pyramid, and connected by a causeway to its massive gate chapel, or propylon at the edge of the rock plateau. The gate chapel leading to the second pyramid, nearly buried in the drifting sands, yawns subterraneously southeast of the Sphinx. Persistent tradition dubs it the Temple of the Sphinx, and it may perhaps be rightly called if the Sphinx indeed represents the second pyramid's builder, Khephren. There are unpleasant tales of the Sphinx before Khephren, but whatever its elder features were, the monarch replaces them with its own, that men might look at the colossus without fear. It was in the great gateway temple that the life-size diorite statue of Khephren, now in the Cairo Museum, was found. A statue before which I stood in awe when I beheld it. Whether the whole edifice is now excavated, I am not certain, but in 1910, most of it was below ground and with the entrance heavily barred at night. Germans were in charge of the work, and that war or other things may have stopped them. I would give much, in view of my experience and of certain Bedouin whisperings, discredited or unknown in Cairo, to know what has developed in connection with a certain well in a traverse gallery, where statues of the pharaoh were found in curious juxtaposition to the statue of baboons. The road, as we traversed it on our camels that morning and curved sharply past the wooden police quarters, post office, drugstore, and shops on the left, and plunged south and east in a complete bend that scaled the rock plateau and brought us face to face with the desert under the lee of the Great Pyramid. Past Cyclopean masonry we rose, rounding the east face and looking down ahead into a valley of minor pyramids, beyond which the eternal Nile glistened to the east, and the eternal desert shimmered to the west. Very close loomed the three major pyramids, the greatest devoid of outer casing and showing its bulk of great stones, but the others retaining here and there a neatly fitting covering which made them smooth and finished in their day. Presently we descended toward the Sphinx and sat silent beneath the spell of those terrible unseeing eyes. On the vast stone breast we faintly discerned the emblem of Re Harakite, for whose image the Sphinx was mistaken in a late dynasty, and though sand covered the tablet between the great paws, we recalled what Tutmosis IV inscribed thereon. In the dream he had when a prince it was then that the smile of the Sphinx vaguely displeased us and made us wonder about the legends of subterranean passages beneath the monstrous creature, leading down to depths none might dare hint at, depths connected with mysteries older than the dynasty of Egypt we excavate, and having a sinister relation to the persistence of abnormal, animal-headed gods in the ancient Nilotic pantheon. Then, too, it was I asked myself an idle question whose hideous significance was not to appear for many an hour. Other tourists now began to overtake us, and we moved on the sand-choked temple of the Sphinx. 50 yards to the southeast, which I have previously mentioned, at the great gate of the causeway to the South Pyramid's mortuary chapel on the plateau. Most of it was still underground, and although we dismounted and descended through a modern passageway to its alabaster corridor and pillared hall, I felt that Abdul and the local German attendant had not shown us all there was to see. After this, we made the conventional circuit of the pyramid plateau, examining the second pyramid and the peculiar ruins of its mortuary chapel to the east, and the third pyramid and its miniature southern satellites and ruined eastern chapel. The rock tombs and the honeycombings of the 4th and 5th dynasties, and the famous Campbell's tomb, whose shadowy shaft sinks precipitously for 53 feet, to a sinister sarcophagus which one of our camel drivers divested of the cumbering sand after a vertiginous descent by rope. Cries now assailed us from the Great Pyramid, where Bedouins were besieging a party of tourists with offers of guidance to the top, or of displays of speed and performance of solitary trips up and down. 7 minutes is to be said to be the record for such an ascent and descent, but many lusty sheiks and sons of sheiks assured us that they could not cut it down to 5. They could cut it to 5 if given the requisite impetus of liberal backsheet. They did not get this impetus, though we let Abdul take us up, thus obtaining a view of the unprecedented magnificence which is included not only in remote and glittering Cairo with its crowned citadel and background of gold-violet hills, but all the pyramids of the Memphian district as well, from Abu Rosh on the north to the Deshur in the south. The Saqqara Step Pyramid, which marks the evolution of the low mastaba into the true pyramid, showed clearly and alluringly in the sand's distance. It is close to this transition monument that the famed tomb of Perneb was found, more than 400 miles north of the Theban rock valley where Tutankhamun sleeps. Again, I was forced to silence through sheer awe. The prospect of such antiquity and the secrets of each hoary monument seemed to hold and brood over filled me with a reverence and sense of immensity nothing else ever gave me. Fatigued by our climb and disgusted with the importunate Bedouins whose actions seemed to defy every rule of taste, we omitted the arduous detail of entering the cramped interior passages of any of the pyramids, though we saw several of the hardiest tourists preparing for the suffocating crawling through the Cheops mightiest memorial. As we dismissed and overpaid our local bodyguard and drove back to Cairo with Abdul Rees under the afternoon sun, we half regretted the omission we had made. Such fascinating things were whispered about lower pyramids, passages not in guidebooks, passages whose entrances have been hastily blocked up and concealed by certain uncommunicative archaeologists who have found and begun to explore them. Of course, the whispering was largely baseless on the face of it, but it was curious to reflect how persistently visitors were forbidden to enter the pyramids at night, or to visit the lowest burrows and crypt of the Great Pyramid, or to visit the Perhaps in the latter case it was the psychological effect which was feared, the effect on the visitor of feeling himself huddled down beneath a gigantic world of solemn masonry, joined to the life he has known by the merest tube, in which he may only crawl, and which any accident or evil design might block. The whole subject seemed weird, so weird and alluring that we resolved to pay the Pyramid Plateau another visit at the earliest possible opportunity. For me, the opportunity came much earlier than I expected.